Within the walls are mysteries better left alone. Among the halls roam echoes that take a chilling tone. In the attic, in the cellar, lurk the tales we love to tell around a fire or a flashlight. Where we're all as scared as hell. The House on Macabre Hill. Hello, I'm Mark in the Dark, owner of Macabre Hill. This derelict Victorian mansion is my repository for all things macabre. I've amassed a grand collection of eerie stories, haunting facts, plus places to go and things to buy that are bizarre. They're packed into the attic, the cellar, every room of Macabre Hill. For the next hour, I'll share them all, just with you. Oh, here we are in the library. The perfect place to start. Please, have a seat. Are you comfortable? No? Good. Let's begin. Coming up in today's Macabre Hill, we'll visit a haunted bed and breakfast in Plattsburgh, Missouri. We'll check out a convention that's a real horror. We'll find out about mid-Missouri ghosts, New Madrid earthquakes, an action figure that puts the creep in Creep Show, and why a taste of mummy is good for you. But first, let's wet our bloodthirsty whistle by heading to a riverboat where the only thing you're gambling is your life. This is Macabre Hill.
Off then stepped a gambling man from Louisville who tried to get a bet against the whippoor wheel. Billy flashed the roller, surely was a bear. The boiler, it exploded, blew them up in the air. Oh, Steamboat Bill, he tore up the Mississippi. Steamboat Bill, the tide, it made him swear. Oh, Steamboat Bill, he tore up the Mississippi. The explosion of the boiler got him up in the air.
That was the song Steamboat Bill, as performed by Arthur Collins in 1911. It was a very popular record that year, a playful tune about a fictitious steamboat called the Whippoorwill racing the Robert E. Lee. The second boat was real and had set a record racing the steamboat Natchez from St. Louis to New Orleans in 1870. Now, by the time Steamboat Bill was warbling from gramophones across America, the age of the steamboat had come and gone. Starting in the 1870s, trains became the main transportation for goods, products, and people. A whole generation had grown up without worry of the horror of a steamboat boiler explosion. Their parents and grandparents knew differently. From 1811 to 1899, 156 steamboats were lost to snags or rocks, and another 499 went down due to ice, fire, and explosions. Countless others disappeared without a trace. Steamboat explosions got so bad, on March 22, 1854, the New York Times had ran an article titled "Steamboat Burnings and Boiler Explosions." Here's a paragraph from it. The consequences of carelessness in those who construct and manage our steamboats are so terrible that all that the law and its executors can do to prevent them should be done promptly and effectively. Many subjects of far less importance occupy much of the time of Congress, and in view of the late alarming frequency of steam boiler explosions and steamboat catastrophes, we venture to ask their attention to the subject as one requiring legislation. The article also said that in just that month, there had been at least 3 steamboat disasters with, quote, about 200 lives lost and no one blamed, unquote. 200 lives in just 3 disasters. The glory of Mark Twain's heritage had a price. Now, sinking was dangerous, from being trapped in the ship to the condition of the water you jumped into, to being marooned on a riverbank far from humanity. However, explosions were the deadliest issue. Those wooden boats burnt like matchsticks, and the violence of the steam boilers exploding with their superheated water so that when it became steam it expanded 1,700 times its size as a liquid was horrific. One such example is the demise of the SS Sultana. This steamboat boiler disaster still exists as the worst tragedy in American nautical history. It was a large steamboat with 4 boilers. On April 24, 1865, the Sultana stopped in Vicksburg, Mississippi to repair a boiler. They patched it in a hurry, and while they were there, they took on a number of paying travelers, a large number. Before the Sultana took off again, approximately 2,200 people were on board. Now, the legal limit for the ship was 376. It was standing room only, top to bottom, inside and out, every deck full of people. The Sultana headed upriver, and at 2 a.m., not far from Memphis, Tennessee, the repair to the boiler broke. 3 of the boilers exploded. Metal, wood, and hot coals ripped through the air. Those not killed by the explosion faced a huge river of frigid water or a burning ship. According to official count, 1,547 people died. For comparison, the Titanic lost 1,517. Lexington, Missouri sits on a bluff overlooking the Missouri River. It was established in 1822, named after Lexington, Kentucky. It became a major trade port with as many as 3,500 covered wagons per year pouring through it, and a port where steamboats heading upstream could disgorge passengers and cargo and take on more. The city was a favorite steamboat stop also because it allowed the steamboats to prepare to work their way around the treacherous, fast-current bend just up the river. This was the landing from which the Saluda would depart on Good Friday, April 9, 1852, and never see another port again. The Saluda already had a history. It's an old boat in steamboat years, having existed for 6 years, whereas the average was 3. Built in 1846, the boat sunk on a snag in 1847. It was underwater for months before a salvager raised it and floated the hulk to St. Louis for repairs. Many things were replaced, the boilers weren't. In April of 1852, the Saluda had stopped in Lexington because it was having trouble making it around that bend. Not only was the river higher than usual for that spring, there were ice floes still in it. Those chunks of ice broke parts of the Saluda's paddle wheels, which required repair. 5 days the Saluda had to stay at Lexington. By now, it was behind schedule. So on Good Friday, the captain decided to push on and is reported to have vowed to round the bend or blow this boat to hell. He ordered his engineers to fill the boilers to maximum pressure. The boiler walls glowed red hot. They pushed off from the landing, the paddle wheels made 3 revolutions, and the boilers exploded. Apparently, the engineers had let the boilers go dry. So when cold water rushed in, the steam erupted like the fury of hell itself. This from an eyewitness account. The noise of the explosion resembled the sharp report of thunder, and the houses of the city were shaken, as if by heaving of an earthquake. Witnesses on the bluff saw bodies and boat fragments shoot into the air. Parts of the smokestacks, the decks, the cabin section, and the boilers themselves streaked in every direction. A man standing on shore was killed by flying timber. Iron and wood fragments fell in showers as far as 400 yards from the explosion. That's 4 football fields away. The Saluda's cast iron bell went flying up the bluff, along with a 600-pound safe that, sadly, still had the captain's dog leashed to it. The captain himself was blown halfway up the bank, and body parts rained onto the unsuspecting town. Because the explosion happened practically on the bank of the city, the carnage was beyond horrible. 75 people were killed or lost out of 175 passengers. According to ghost investigators who visit Lexington, some of those passengers still wandered the streets, hoping to reconnect with their lives or perhaps their missing limbs. Postscript. The fictitious whippoorwill steamboat that met disaster in the song Steamboat Bill? It found real disaster on a Kansas lake. In 1978, a steamboat replica christened the Whippoorwill cruised Lake Pomona outside of Topeka, Kansas. It entertained passengers with food, a show, and the beauty of the Kansas night sky. On June 17th of that year, a surprise tornado hit the lake and flipped the Whippoorwill upside down. 16 lives were lost. The song Steamboat Bill may have come and gone in 1911, but the dangerous legacy of the steamboat still lives on.
Oh, Steamboat Bill, missing on the Mississippi. Steamboat Bill is with an angel band. Oh, Steamboat Bill, missing on the Mississippi. He's a pilot on a ferry in that promised land.
Coming up when we return to Macabre Hill, head north of Kansas City to a place with a bed and breakfast that's also a dead and breakfast. Plus, get ready to mark your calendars for August when a convention hits Kansas City that's something to scream about. Macabre Hill. We'll be right back.
Stop it! Help me!
There's no escaping the truth.
Leave me alone! There's no escaping Macabre Hill.